Lesson 8.6 is on solving x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. In this lesson, you will learn to factor trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c and solve equations of the form x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Vocabulary for the section is just quadratic equation. So, factoring x squared plus bx plus c. To factor trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c, find two integers, m and p, with a sum of b and a product of c. Then write x squared plus bx plus c as x plus m and x plus p. So, for example, we want to come up with a number, two numbers, that multiply to 8 and add to 6. So they said 2 and 4, because 2 times 4 is 8, but 2 plus 4 is 6. So when I do this, remember, I want to multiply to this number and add to that number. So in order to do this, I'm going to start by looking at the factors of 12. So some factors of 12 could be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And then I want to look at their sums. And I want the ones that have a sum, when you add those two together, that gives you 7. So I get 13, 8, and 7. So the one that gave me 7, because that there was 7, those are the answers I'm looking for. So I write it as x plus 3 and x plus 4. Well, what we did is we took something that had been FOILed from this, basically. So like if I were to FOIL this, I would see that I get back to my original thing. So FOILing my first terms, my outside terms, my inside terms, and my last terms. Combining like terms, I get back to x squared plus 7x plus 12. So this is my answer, and we just showed that it worked by when we refoiled it. Okay, so part B, or example 2, sorry. We want to multiply to 27 and add to negative 12. So we're first going to look at the factors of 27. So we can say 9 and 3, 27 and 1. And that's about all I can think of. But we want to add to negative 12. So when you have negative here and positive here, that means both of our numbers are going to be negative. Because if you have negative 9 times a negative 3, that still gives you a positive 27. Negative times negative is positive. But then when I add it, I get negative 12, and when I add these, I get negative 28. So the one we're looking for is the right sum of negative 12. So I write it as x minus 9, or x plus a negative 9, which would be x minus 9, and x minus 3. And those are my solutions. That's my factor. So again, if I were to check it, you don't have to check. If you were to check this, first terms, outside terms, inside terms, and my last terms, combining like terms, I get back to my original that I was trying to factor. Okay? So what happens if C is negative? So in this case, we have positive here and negative here. That means that our solutions, in order to multiply to a negative number, you have to have one positive and one negative. So our factors of negative 18, we can have negative 1 and positive 18, or we can have 1 and negative 18. We can have 2 and negative 9, or negative 2 and positive 9, 3 and negative 6, or 6 and negative 3. Oh, the same thing. Okay. Or we can have, that's it. Right. So we want to check the sums. So this is 17, this is negative 17, this is negative 7, this is positive 7, this is negative 3, and this is positive 3. So we want the one that gave us positive 3. So that's this one, or these two. So we want to take negative 3, and 6. So it's going to be x minus 3 and x plus 6. And that's going to be my factored form of this. Okay, so now here, c again is negative. So I'm going to look for my factors of negative 20. So numbers that multiply to negative 20, and I'm going to be looking for numbers that add to negative 1. So again, because c is negative, it could be 1 plus and 1 positive, 1 negative. So negative 1 and 20, or 1 and negative 20, or 2 and negative 10, or negative 2 and positive 10. 3, 4 and negative 5, or negative 4 and positive 5. I think that's everything that goes in there. So then our sums are going to be negative 19, or sorry, positive 19, negative 19, negative 8, positive 8, negative 1, and positive 1. And we're looking for negative 1. So that means my goes there. So I'm going to have my final answer is going to be x plus 4 and x minus 5. And that's the same thing as that. So if I were to FOIL this out, I would get back to my original equation. Okay, if I want to solve an equation by factoring, just like in the last section, whenever we have this squared, we want to get everything onto one side. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 15 on both sides. So I'm going to get x squared plus 2x minus 15. I'm just going to leave that as blue because I want us to treat these just like we treated the other ones. So we're going to factor it, ignoring the part that says it's equal to 0. So I want to multiply to negative 15, and I want to add to 2. So I'm going to list the factors of negative 15, and I can think of negative 5 and 3, 3 and negative 3 and positive 5, 15 and negative 1, negative 15 and positive 1, and that's all I've got for now. So which of these adds to 2? It's going to be, so factoring this over here, this is going to be x minus 3 and x plus 5. So now, we have two things multiplied together equals 0. So this is what we talked about in the last section. So either x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. And then I want to solve both of those. 3. There. So it's going to be x equals 3. And then this 5 from both sides. And I get x equals negative 5. So 3 and negative 5 are the solutions to this here. Okay, Marianne wants to build a new art studio that has 3 times the area of her old art studio by increasing the length and width by the same amount. What should the dimensions of the new studio be? So we're looking at the bit dimensions. So this length over here, this is going to be x plus 12. And this one over here is going to be 10 plus x. Marianne wants to build, what should be the dimension? So it's going to be x plus 12 times x plus 10, or 10 plus x. And what's the new art studio? That's 3 times the area. Okay, so if we want to have her area be 3 times the old one, the area of this one, the existing studio, is 12 by 10, or 120. So we want the new dimensions to be 3 times that, so 3 times 120. So we want x plus 12 times x plus 10 to be equal to 360. So in order to solve this, first thing I have to do is FOIL this out. So I'm going to do x times x, my first term is x squared, my outside terms is plus 10x, my inside term is 12x, and my last term is 120. And that's equal to 360. So to solve this, I need to get it equal to 0. So I'm going to move everything onto this side and combine like terms. So x squared plus 22x, combining 10x and 12x. And then subtracting 360 from each side, I'm going to get negative 240 equals 0. And now this is what I want to factor, that there. So I want to multiply to 240 and add to 22. So let's look at some factors of 240. I can say 12 and 20. Sorry, 12 and 20, but that's not going to give me a sum. One of those positive and negative. That's not going to get me quite to 22. So let's see. If I tried 8 and 30, that one is close to 22 because there's a difference at 22. So I'm going to get positive 22. So that means I'm going to have negative 8. So 30 minus 8 is 22, and 8 times 30, negative 8 times 30 is 240. So this is going to be x minus 8 times x plus 30 equals 0. Remember, when you have a product of two things equal to 0, you set each one equal to 0 and solve. So from this one, you're going to get x equals 8, and from this one, you get x equals negative 30. But we're talking about a length. So it does not make sense for us to say that x there is negative 30. So my answer is going to be 8. So the dimensions, if it's 10, x plus 12 and x plus 8, and x plus 12 and x plus 10 and x is 8, this is going to be 20 by 18. So the dimensions of the studio are 20 by 18. And that's the answer. Okay, if you want to try some practice problems, here they are.